But the other system's place, and this is going to turn very different than the current news media thinks it is. The other system's place is the State Department. Now, former Secretary, former Senator, former First Lady Clinton, who will presently be a former failed presidential candidate again, she's written a chapter on Benghazi, which I think, by the way, is not the central issue. I do not believe that she has written a chapter on Boko Haram. And one of my goals is to convince the Benghazi committee that it needs to look beyond the handful of days in one city. And it needs to ask the question, what is there about the State Department culture that has led it to consistently, for well over a decade, refuse to admit the existence of radical Islamists and refuse to put the dots together across the whole world? And let me say, this is not just about Hillary Clinton. I first gave a speech at the American Enterprise Institute in 2002 saying that the State Department had to be profoundly overhauled, and I had President Bush and, at that time, several other key leaders, including the then Secretary of State, who were very unhappy. But the fact is, under the Bush administration, under the Clinton administration, under the Obama administration, the United States State Department has consistently refused to be honest about the existence of an international Islamic extremist organization, and their arguments are absurd. And as much as we need to clean up the Veterans Administration, we need to clean up the culture of the Foreign Service and the culture of the State Department. And if you look at the entire problem in Nigeria, which is the most populous country in Africa, and a very important country, and a country where the State Department under Hillary Clinton refused to admit that Boko Haram was a terrorist group. They said they were a local group. Now, just, again, maybe because I'm a historian, I get frustrated, because I used to have students that I actually wanted to learn history, and I thought that secretaries of state and senators and others ought to be at least as good as the students used to be. Boko Haram's first base camp in northern Nigeria was called Afghanistan. I did not make this up. Now, if you were faced with a group that said their role model was the Taliban, and that they were naming their base camp Afghanistan because of their great belief in the Taliban, would you say, aha, this is a local group? And then if you learned that they sent people to Afghanistan, to Saudi Arabia, to Yemen to get trained, would you say, isn't this just like a Rotary exchange program? I mean, who are we to judge if you get together to learn how to do better bombs or how to kidnap more girls? I mean, do we want to be judgmental? Of course not. We're the American State Department. We're too blind and dumb to be judgmental. So, and I need your help with this because it hasn't penetrated yet, because candidly, the news media is as frightened of being honest about radical Islamists as the State Department. And so we need to break through the political correctness, and I need your help because the Benghazi committee shouldn't just get sucked into a day-by-day chronology of one event. They should start and work backwards. Why did they not recognize it was a terrorist operation in Benghazi? Well, because they don't recognize it's a terrorist operation anywhere. What is there at the very core of the State Department that makes it impossible to come to grips with the great threat to America and the great threat to our civilization? Why is it that groups who go out and burn churches regularly, particularly on Christmas Day, which is what Boko Haram was doing, that we might have noticed that that was a religious event? But of course, it couldn't be a religious event, because if it was a religious event, they'd be an extremist group, and they can't be an extremist group because they're people we really would like to talk with, because, you know, if we talk to them, maybe they wouldn't burn as many churches. I mean, there's a passion in the State Department and there's a passion in the Obama administration to find moderate extremists. If only we could find, I'm not making this up, the guy who's the current head of the CIA when he was the Obama terrorism advisor in the White House said, we are looking for moderate elements of Hezbollah. Now, this is like saying in the old days of the Cold War, we really want to find the moderates at the KGB, and we did, by the way. Their name was Putin. And if you ever want to see just one segment of why Hillary Clinton in the end will not become president, look at the segment you can find on YouTube where they had a reset button with the Russians. I'm going to close on this because it is so unimaginably foolish. And she looks so silly. I mean, not since Secretary Albright danced with Kim Jong-il in Korea have we seen a scene like this. Apparently, the best we can figure out, that morning they got up and said, let's do something really cool at our first meeting with the Russian foreign minister to show how much more clever we are than the Bush administration. And they literally went to their hotel swimming pool area and they got a red button off the jacuzzi. They then said, we're going to really be clever. Let's get our translator to write on the button, reset. And if you watch this scene, I mean, you cannot imagine a serious adult representing the most powerful country in the world being this stupid. She's kind of giggling, and she hands the foreign minister this reset button. And she says to him, did we get the Russian right? And he said, actually not. You wrote down the word for overcharge. And she then giggles and says, well, we're certainly not going to let you do that, and then hugs him. This is, by the way, the same foreign minister who recently has been chatting with John Kerry about how much of Ukraine they need so they'll be happy. You know, I mean, I'll just close with this thought. You have a left dedicated to being prison guards of the past in education, in health care, across virtually every aspect of the government, dedicated to propping up failed systems, systems that only work to the advantage of their allies and do not work to the advantage of the country. And you have a left which has penetrated deeply in the State Department, which cannot come to grips with reality. And that's why this fall really matters. You helping Bill Cassidy win right here really, really matters. Thank you, good luck, and God bless you.